Fear is a language few dare to speak, yet it governs every choice we make. It creeps into the corners of our minds like a shadow, unseen but palpably present, whispering doubts, feeding hesitation. To survive, to ascend, one must not merely endure fear, one must wear it like a mask. It is in the very act of pretending that courage is born. For humans are not naturally brave. Bravery is an illusion meticulously constructed over trembling hands and racing hearts. He had learned this lesson the hard way. Every night he walked through streets that seemed empty, yet eyes followed him from every darkened window. His pulse raced, but he kept his face calm, serene, as though the darkness held no dominion over him. Every shadow was a potential enemy, every sound a signal of betrayal. Yet he smiled, nodded politely to strangers, and spoke softly when required. Fear was alive inside him, but to the world he was untouchable. This was the art of the mask. Humans are predictable in their terror. They flinch at subtle threats, recoil from confrontation, and betray their own instincts under pressure. Machiavelli once wrote that the wise learn to manipulate what they cannot control. The foolish are manipulated by what they fear. And so he observed others, colleagues, friends, lovers, all wearing their own masks of composure, their trembling hearts hidden beneath forced laughter and polite nods. He realized the truth. The world rewards the ones who master the terror within before it can master them. But mastering fear is not a passive act. It requires deliberate confrontation with the darkest parts of oneself. He remembered the first time he looked into the mirror and saw the true weight of his panic reflected back. The hands shook, the throat tightened, the stomach knotted. Yet he forced himself to smile every day after he practiced the ritual, acknowledging the fear, examining it, then folding it neatly behind a mask of calm, a mask no one else could pierce. This was not deception, it was survival. And yet, there is a price. To wear the mask of fear is to live perpetually on the edge between authenticity and performance. Relationships strain, empathy dulls, and the mind becomes a battlefield where trust is constantly sacrificed for control. He watched others crumble under the gaze of their own insecurity, their masks slipping at the slightest provocation. The realization was chilling. Fear is not conquered. It is concealed, and those who hide it best are often the ones who will rule the unseen. As night deepened, he sensed movement in the distance, a figure emerging from the alley, hesitant, trembling, but curious. Fear radiated from the stranger, unrefined and raw, and yet it was familiar. He understood instinctively that every human is first prey to themselves. This stranger, like so many others, had yet to learn the first lesson, that survival begins by mastering the terror inside, long before it can be seen by others. And so he turned, ready to engage with the world beyond, knowing that mastering fear was only the first brutal truth. Behind the mask lay an abyss, but beyond the abyss waited loyalty's treachery, a betrayal that would test not just courage, but the very foundations of the mind itself. The lesson had been learned, yet the next truth waited patiently in the shadows, biding its time. Fear had been mastered, or so he thought. But survival demanded more than courage. It demanded discernment. For humans, beneath the surface of smiles and handshakes lies a current of betrayal, subtle yet relentless. Loyalty, he realized, is rarely genuine. It is a currency exchanged for comfort, power, or advantage, and most will sell it without hesitation when the price is right. He had believed in friends once, trusted confidants who whispered promises in candlelit rooms, who swore allegiance in words soft as silk. But trust, he learned, is a fragile veneer. One night, a hand he thought steady betrayed him, revealing intentions he had never imagined. The shock was a physical blow, the kind that makes the heart seize and the mind race. It was not anger that overcame him. It was the recognition of an immutable truth. Loyalty is an illusion. Machiavelli wrote that men are ungrateful, fickle, and deceivers by nature. He had scoffed at the idea once, believing that honor and principle could survive the weight of fear and desire. Now he knew the subtle cruelty of human bonds. Betrayal does not always arrive with a knife in the back. Often it wears the mask of devotion, smiles softly, and whispers encouragement while plotting ruin. The night was heavy, thick with fog that curled around lampposts like ghostly fingers. He observed a colleague pacing beneath the streetlight, unaware of the truth he had just unearthed. In the shadows, intentions collided, hidden agendas skittered like rats. Every word spoken, every handshake offered could be a weapon. He realized that to navigate this world, one must treat loyalty as a tool, not a virtue, trust sparingly, and always measure the weight of a promise before accepting it. And yet, betrayal has a peculiar beauty, a cruel artistry. It exposes weakness in others, it reveals character, it carves the landscape of power. He remembered confronting the betrayer, a voice calm, almost detached, yet carrying a sharp edge that cut deeper than any blade. "I did what I had to do," the words hissed, simple, cold, and unrepentant. The lesson was indelible. The only loyalty that can be counted upon is one you cultivate within yourself. As dawn broke, painting the alley in pale, unforgiving light, he understood the next truth awaiting him. Loyalty was a lie, but obsession could bind even the strongest mind, control the actions of the fearful and the ambitious alike. The danger was no longer outside. It resided in desire, in fixation, in the part of the human mind that refuses reason for the promise of fulfillment. He stepped into the morning, senses sharpened, eyes attuned to subtle movements, hearts veiled in masks of intent. The first lesson, fear, had been mastered. The second, loyalty, had been exposed as deception. And the third truth awaited, hidden in plain sight. That obsession could unravel everything, and nothing in the world was safe from it. Betrayal had revealed itself, a knife twisting in the heart of trust. But obsession lurked quietly beneath the surface, far more insidious. It begins as fascination, a fascination that creeps into the mind, claiming thoughts unbidden, whispering promises the rational self cannot dismiss. Obsession is a thief, stealing focus, judgment, and ultimately the will. He understood this now. To master others, one must first recognize the chains that bind themselves. It started with her, a figure who seemed ordinary to the casual observer, yet extraordinary to him. Her presence lingered long after she had gone, a shadow etched in memory. Nights became restless, thoughts spiraling into patterns he could neither control nor ignore. Every action she took, every word spoken, was catalogued in a silent ledger of analysis. What began as curiosity transformed into fixation, and fixation is a dangerous companion. Machiavelli once hinted that men are slaves to desire, often unaware of the chains that bind them. Obsession magnifies weakness, exposing it in the most intimate ways. He remembered conversations replayed endlessly, gestures dissected under the lens of scrutiny. The mind, once sharp and disciplined, had become a cage of relentless thought, each echo reinforcing the grip of an unseen master. Compulsion. And yet, obsession is not purely destructive. It illuminates vulnerability in others, reveals hidden patterns, and offers opportunity for control. He discovered that those obsessed are predictable, their decisions guided by impulses they cannot name, their loyalty fickle, their reasoning compromised. The very fixation that threatens to consume a mind can be wielded like a scalpel, cutting through hesitation and doubt. The city outside whispered its own obsessions, neon signs flickering, windows glowing in the fog, the endless march of lives consumed by desires they cannot articulate. He stalked the streets, a shadow among shadows, sensing in every hurried glance, every cautious step, the subtle manifestations of obsession in others. It was everywhere, in ambition, in fear, in the pursuit of forbidden pleasures. The lesson was clear. Obsession is universal, and those who understand it control it. Yet there is a peril in recognizing it too late. He recalled the night he confronted her, the weight of unspoken truths pressing like stones upon his chest. "You watch too much," she whispered, and in her gaze lay understanding he had not expected. The chill of realization sank into his bones. Obsession is not merely a tool, it is a mirror reflecting one's own fragility. And so, as dawn broke over the silent city, he acknowledged the next inevitable truth. Obsession could not only consume the heart, but it could be manipulated to reveal secrets, break wills, and create delusions of loyalty and fear. It was not merely an internal struggle, it was a weapon in the arsenal of the unbreakable mind. The next lesson waited in the stillness, not in desire, but in quiet control, in the mastery of absence and presence, in the unspoken that commands attention. For the mind that yields to obsession is vulnerable, but the mind that understands it can wield silence as a blade, bending others without a word. The path continued deeper, toward power hidden in stillness, toward a truth even more dangerous than fixation itself. Obsession had whispered its secrets, yet he understood that knowledge alone was not enough. To survive in this world, one must wield the invisible weapon of silence. Words are powerful, yes, but silence, deliberate, measured, and unbroken, can control more than any scream, threaten more than any blade. The unspoken thought lingers in the minds of others, breeding doubt, fear, and anticipation. In silence lies domination. He remembered the first time he truly experimented with this truth. In a room filled with schemers and sycophants, voices clashed and tempers flared. Every eye sought to measure him, to read his intent, yet he said nothing. He let the room fill with tension, a heavy, suffocating pressure that made even the boldest falter. Thoughts unspoken grew into panic. Alliances crumbled without a word, and in that moment he realized that silence was more dangerous than any revelation. Machiavelli had always argued that perception shapes reality, that controlling what others believe is often more important than controlling what is true. He understood this fully in the quiet moments, where a single pause or an absence of reply could ripple through a room like a stone cast into still water. The human mind struggles against uncertainty. It fears what it cannot name, and thus the one who speaks least wields the greatest power. The city outside remained still, fog curling along the cobblestones, masking movement, hiding intentions. He moved like a shadow, listening to the whispers carried on the cold wind. Every conversation he observed, every gesture noted, added pieces to a hidden puzzle. And in those moments, he recognized another truth. People reveal more in what they withhold than in what they speak. Secrets are surrendered quietly, without ceremony, when one believes no one is watching. Yet there is a cost to silence. It isolates the mind, sharpens paranoia, and breeds loneliness. He had lost companions who could not endure the weight of his quiet, who mistook patience for weakness, mystery for manipulation. But to wield this power is to accept that solitude is the price of control, that the mastery of others begins with mastery over what you choose not to reveal. And as he stepped into the twilight of the city streets, the next realization emerged like a predator in the dark. Even silence can be shattered by a hidden face, a concealed identity that alters the course of every plan. To navigate the human labyrinth, one must anticipate not only fear, loyalty, and obsession, but the dangerous truths hidden behind the masks people wear. He paused beneath a dim street lamp, shadows stretching long across the stones. In the quiet, he knew the next lesson awaited, a truth that would expose not the mind alone, but the very nature of identity itself. The world is never as simple as it seems, and the unspoken has a power that can shape or shatter a life in an instant. The forbidden path continued, deeper into revelation, toward faces that were never what they appeared. Silence had been mastered, yet mastery alone revealed only a fraction of the truth. For in every human interaction, behind every measured pause and every carefully chosen word, lies a hidden face. It is the face no one shows, the mask that conceals true intent. Some hide cruelty, others conceal longing. Most hide nothing at all and deceive themselves in the process. He had learned to read them, to sense the tremor beneath a handshake, the hesitation in a nod. The city at night seemed to breathe with secrets. Shadows clung to corners, stretching across walls like silent witnesses. He passed beneath the flickering streetlights, eyes scanning faces illuminated briefly by passing vehicles. Every glance was a story, every expression a puzzle. Some were deliberate masks of innocence, others unintentional windows into fractured souls. In all of them, he recognized one principle. Humans are experts at hiding, yet they leave traces for those who know how to look. He remembered meeting her, a colleague who seemed open, almost inviting. Her smile was bright, her voice warm, yet something in her eyes hinted at another life, one carefully locked away. It was not immediate. The revelation came slowly like a creeping fog, until he could no longer ignore the subtle inconsistencies. The hidden face revealed itself in gestures too small to notice, in words chosen too carefully, in moments that contradicted her presented self. Machiavelli had spoken often of appearances, warning that the perception of virtue often outweighs virtue itself. He realized this principle applied not only to rulers, but to all humans. The facade is a shield, but the truth behind it is far more instructive than any outward display. To manipulate, to survive, one must recognize the hidden face before it recognizes you. Yet uncovering it is dangerous. Once exposed, the hidden face resists. Trust is tested, confrontation inevitable. He had seen colleagues, friends, lovers transform instantly when their masks were questioned, their secret selves threatened. Rage, despair, even calculated cruelty surfaced, reminding him that what lies beneath is often stronger than what is shown. As dawn approached, he sensed the next challenge waiting beyond this revelation. That hidden face was merely a doorway, Beyond it lay the edge of revenge, where power, control, and the consequences of betrayal would converge. The path grew darker still, promising lessons harsher than any he had encountered. The forbidden knowledge of human nature demanded courage, cunning, and a readiness to confront truths that few could endure. The hidden face had been revealed, its secrets laid bare, and with them came a chilling realization. Some truths demand action. Revenge is not a concept of morality. It is a necessity of survival, a calculated response to betrayal. It is a blade that must be forged in the fires of patience, sharpened with observation, and wielded with precision. To act too soon is to ruin everything. To hesitate is to invite defeat. He remembered the night it began. The alley was silent except for the distant hum of the city. Shadows clung to the walls like conspirators. His betrayer awaited, confident, unaware that the scales had already shifted. Every movement, every measured breath was a study in subtle intimidation. Revenge is not loud. It is quiet, deliberate, a shadow creeping beneath the skin of those who believe themselves safe. Machiavelli wrote that men are often more motivated by fear than love, and he now understood the depth of that principle. The one who controls perception controls action. He had observed, planned, and allowed the betrayer to believe they were untouchable. Confidence is a dangerous mask, and masks can be broken, sometimes with devastating force. The confrontation was almost ceremonial. Words were exchanged, calm, precise, each one a scalpel cutting deeper than any knife. "Do you remember trust?" he asked, voice low, almost casual. The betrayer faltered, a flicker of recognition in their eyes. But hesitation is weakness. The moment must be seized. He struck not with rage but with strategy, exploiting every predictable reaction, turning loyalty against itself. Yet revenge is never pure. It leaves stains, subtle but permanent, on the mind that executes it. One cannot destroy another without altering oneself. He felt it, a cold clarity, a sharpening of thought, but also a creeping emptiness where compassion once resided. The power gained was intoxicating, but it demanded solitude. Revenge isolates, leaving the avenger perched on a narrow ledge between dominance and moral ruin. Outside, the city remained indifferent, lights flickering across deserted streets. Every observer, every passer-by, oblivious to the silent battles unfolding in the alleys. The world moves on while human nature cycles through betrayal, obsession, and retribution, unaware that the true power lies in understanding these cycles before they consume you. And yet, even at the edge of revenge, he knew the path was not complete. To wield power without fear is not enough. To survive, one must also build an unbreakable mind, impervious to despair, immune to manipulation, and capable of enduring solitude without faltering. Revenge is a lesson in control, but the mind is the fortress in which true invulnerability resides. He walked away from the confrontation, shadows stretching behind him, silent witnesses to the unfolding of human darkness. The next truth awaited, the culmination of all he had learned, a final revelation that would forge the mind into something unassailable. The edge of revenge was not the end, but a threshold beyond which lay the unbreakable core of thought and spirit waiting to be claimed. Revenge had been executed, betrayal confronted, obsession observed, and silence mastered. Yet even all these victories could not forge the mind into true invulnerability. To become unbreakable, one must not merely survive fear, loyalty, or desire. One must internalize them, dissect them, and transcend their influence. The unbreakable mind is not born. It is constructed meticulously like a fortress against the chaos of human nature. He walked alone through the dim corridors of the city, his footsteps echoing against stone and brick. Every shadow that moved, every whisper in the wind, was a test of perception. Humans are fragile creatures, easily manipulated by their emotions, their instincts, their illusions of control. But the unbreakable mind understands emotion can be acknowledged, not obeyed. Instinct can be studied, not feared. Illusion can be pierced with clarity of thought. Machiavelli wrote that the wise learn to manipulate circumstances, but the truly wise first manipulate themselves. He had learned to fear without trembling, to trust without naivety, to desire without losing reason. Each lesson he endured, each confrontation survived, added another layer to the mental armor he wore invisibly. The world could strike, betray, or tempt him, yet he remained centered, detached, and calculating. The process was neither fast nor easy. Nights were restless, filled with rehearsals of possible betrayals, of manipulations he might encounter, of obsessions he could exploit or resist. Silence became a companion, solitude a teacher. Thoughts were sharpened, strategies tested, and the mind, once susceptible to chaos, began to resemble the still surface of a dark lake, calm, reflective, yet capable of sudden, devastating depth. But there is a cost. The unbreakable mind isolates, alienates, and intimidates by default. Those who cannot match its rigor are left behind, bewildered or broken. Relationships are measured in utility, not emotion. Loyalty is earned through observation, not sentiment. Yet these sacrifices are the price of invulnerability. To endure is to be untouchable. To endure without illusion is to become a master of reality itself. He paused beneath a flickering street lamp, the mist curling around him like whispered warnings. For a moment he allowed himself to reflect on the journey. Fear, betrayal, obsession, silence, hidden faces, revenge. Each a brutal truth that had shaped him, tempered him, and refined him. And now he understood. The mind can be strengthened beyond ordinary limits, made impervious to manipulation, desire, or despair. The next step was not visible, yet it awaited in the hidden corners of human nature. Beyond strength lies understanding. Beyond invulnerability lies knowledge so dangerous it threatens complacency itself. The unbreakable mind is not the final lesson. It is the prelude to the forbidden, the doorway to truths most feared to acknowledge. And in that darkness, the final revelation awaited, waiting to be claimed by those who dare to see what others cannot. The unbreakable mind had been forged, each brutal truth absorbed, each weakness confronted. Yet the deepest lesson awaited in silence, in shadows, on the final page no one dared to read. It is called forbidden not for obscurity, but for danger. Once understood, it cannot be unlearned. It reveals the raw, unvarnished nature of humanity, a darkness so fundamental, so irrevocable, that most would turn away rather than face it. He opened the page as one opens a tomb. Words etched in ink seemed to crawl, whispering truths he had sensed but never fully grasped. Human nature is a web of contradictions. We crave connection, yet betray at the first opportunity. We desire love, yet destroy it with obsession. We seek power, yet fear its consequences. The mind that can navigate this web, understanding the patterns and embracing their implications, is truly untouchable. The rest remain prey to their own illusions. Machiavelli had hinted at this. The wise manipulate circumstances, but the most dangerous manipulate understanding itself. Knowledge of human weakness is power. The forbidden page revealed the ultimate calculus: fear, loyalty, obsession, silence, hidden identities, revenge. They are not separate truths, but threads of a single tapestry. The unbreakable mind sees the connections, anticipates the consequences, and acts with precision. It is not merely invulnerable, it is unavoidable. The city outside lay in fog, dim lights reflecting like shattered glass on wet streets. He moved through it, feeling the pulse of human frailty all around him. People passed, oblivious to the silent dynamics that governed their lives. Betrayal waited in whispered promises. Obsession festered behind polite smiles. Hidden faces schemed beneath casual conversation. And yet, he knew that understanding these truths made him both invisible and omnipotent, a presence that could bend events without interference, a mind operating beyond ordinary constraints. But the forbidden page carried a warning: power without restraint corrupts, and knowledge without discretion destroys. He understood now that the mind, no matter how unbreakable, could become a prison if it sought control over all. Wisdom, he realized, is not only in seeing the darkness of others, but in controlling the darkness within oneself. To read the page is to accept that danger exists in knowing too much, yet ignorance is far more lethal. And so he closed the page, letting the inked truths settle like dust in the air. The journey had ended, yet the story did not truly conclude. Human nature remained as perilous, unpredictable, and seductive as ever. But he had glimpsed the ultimate secret: to survive, to master, to endure. One must embrace what others fear, act when others hesitate, and perceive what others cannot. He walked into the mist, silent, resolute, a shadow among shadows. The forbidden page had revealed its truth, and with it, a haunting certainty. Those who understand human nature fully are unstoppable, and those who do not are expendable. In this knowledge lay both liberation and terror: the knowledge that the world is a labyrinth of minds, and the unbreakable mind is the only compass that never falters.